Zoo Mama, how's it going, everybody? We are here today to talk about every single Spotlight week for the month of October. I'm going to go through all of the weeks, all the cards, and their variants being featured, and just give my ratings on which of these weeks I think is most desirable. Okay, now as I'm putting out this video, depending on when you're watching it, we're either at the very end of Scream's Spotlight week or at the beginning or midway through Misery's Spotlight week. Okay, I'm a bit late to upload this month. You may notice my camera view is a bit different, the background's a bit different. I just moved, so I'm still setting things up, getting things organized. So, my view is going to change a bit over this next week or two as I continue to unpack. But we are here, and we're here to go over this very exciting season. We actually have 5 weeks coming out, but we have 6 new cards. There's one card not pictured here that we're going to get for free through the special week-long event we have coming to Marvel Snap, High Voltage. Now let's start taking a look at these Spotlight weeks. So first up, we have the first week of the season. You're probably already familiar with Scream, and you've probably already decided if you're going to pick up this week or not. Scream being the 2-cost, 2-powered card. When an enemy card moves, steal 2 power from it once per turn. So far, Scream feels pretty good. She's strong, but she doesn't seem to have the strongest decks out. Okay, she might be a bit of a case where good card, bad deck, and we're gonna have to see how that develops. A lot of players are just skipping her, so we may just not know the best combos for her yet. So here is Scream Spotlight Week alongside Man-Thing and Mobius and Mobius. In terms of being competitive, and I talked about this already in my Scream video, I think it's a pretty bad week. Okay, Man-Thing does have a little bit of value if you're playing a Toxic Spectrum ongoing deck or a Toxic High Evo. He can be used there, he can add some value, but he's not a must-have even in those niche decks. Okay, he can be replaced. Mobius is just not seeing any real play at the moment. So both these cards are just not needed, they're not required, but the real kicker is that they're both also Series 4. I mean, it's just an extremely low value week, okay? You're not getting that much token value for your Spotlight keys if you did or do decide to open. So not loving it there. The variants I think are okay. The Scream one's fine. The Man-Thing one is actually kind of cool. I do like it. And the Mobius one is kind of cool as well. But nothing crazy, okay? Nothing I see that's like, oh, I just gotta have it. And, art is subjective. But overall, definitely a pretty weak Spotlight week. All right, next up we have Misery, and I have already put out my prediction video for Misery, and talked about the spotlights in there as well. Misery being the 4-cost, 7-powered card with the on-reveal ability to repeat the on-reveal abilities of your other cards here, then destroy them. Kind of combining Odin and a card like Deathlock. Very interesting. She is only destroying the on-reveal cards that she went and re-triggered as well. So this Spotlight week is an important one. As I mentioned, when this video goes live, it's just before Misery comes out with the Spotlight week. So you may be watching this while we have War Machine and Namora in spotlights alongside Misery. And if you're still deciding, in terms of being competitive, I think it is a good week, okay? We don't know how Misery's going to do, at least at the time I'm making this video. We don't know how Misery performs, so I'm kind of excluding her here. War Machine is a good card. He was bad, horrible, one of the worst cards in the game for so long. They finally made him good, and it seems like he's here to stay. They did even bring him back down to 6 power, but he has his own archetype now. If you are going to play full lockdown, you are going to need War Machine. That's it. If you want to play Storm and do the Storm Legion combo especially, you're going to want War Machine. Namora is a card that kind of flows in and out of the meta. If Clog is really popular, Namora becomes significantly worse, but she can add big value. If Clog, junk decks are not popular, then Namora can really pop off. But overall, we've got War Machine holding it down, a great card right now, and Namora is, kind of just nice to have at times. In terms of the variants, I think they're pretty good as well. I actually really like the Misery variant, even though she's the new card. It's a bit hard to get the new card, and the Spotlight Week variant at the same time, but it's really cool. I love the frame break. War Machine, I'm liking this variant. I'd be very happy to open this, and I do not have a variant for War Machine already. And then the Namora variant I really like as well. So overall, this is a very, very solid Spotlight week. And here's just my friendly reminder that if you're enjoying this video, to give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you have not already, because in addition to covering the season spotlights every season, we cover every single new card in Marvel Snap with the Buy or Bust series. Okay, so next up is Scorn. I will have my individual video on Scorn coming out later this week, but Scorn is a discard card. Okay, she is specifically meant for discard. 1 cost, 2 power. When you discard this, she will return to your hand and give +2 power to herself and one of your cards in play. Okay, so you discard her, she gains +2, which means the first time you do it, she becomes a 1/4 in your hand. But a card on the board is also getting +2. So every time you discard her, you're getting +4 net power. That seems pretty strong, but it is also very niche, right? It could be a situation like Scream, where it might be a good card with a bad deck. I will go more in depth on my predictions and thoughts on Scorn in my individual video, but I think she's got good potential. Alright, so on October 15th, we have Scorn coming into spotlights alongside Jean Grey and Sebastian Shaw. And here are the spotlight variants as well. In terms of being competitive, I think it's good. Jean Grey is not in the worst spot right now. She's kind of a card, not necessarily to the level of Namora. I'm not sure she can carry to the level of Namora, that when she is really good, she's really needed. I don't think she's at that point. But she's decent, okay? She has times, like right now, you can get some decent value with Jean Grey. And what's nice with Jean Grey, it really does hard counter some stuff. We've had a lot of Hela decks recently. Hela decks look to play Hela on turn 6, okay? That's the only thing they'll go to play on turn 6. You just slap down a Hela. And Jean Grey can be really, really strong against that. Usually if you're playing Jean Grey, you're playing something like Alioth and or Cosmo. So if you have Jean Grey down and Cosmo and you're against a Hela deck, they literally just cannot play Hela on turn 6. Okay, they have no way to Hela out because they have to play Hela on Jean's lane and there's a Cosmo there, right? You really just shut down hard counters, some really specific combos. So depending on the meta, depending on her supporting cards, how they're doing, she can actually be pretty good, and she's in a decent spot right now. Sebastian Shaw is basically needed if you're going to play Silver Surfer, okay? As far as I'm concerned, there's no competitive Silver Surfer deck that is not running Sebastian Shaw, okay? They are all running Sebastian Shaw. He's just needed for Surfer, but he's very niche. But he is a Series 5 card, Jean Grey being Series 4, so it's not the biggest token value, but it is just a decent week in terms of being competitive. In terms of the variants, I think they're good. I really like the Scorn one. Again, this is the new, Spotlight Week variant for the new cards, so it's a bit hard to pick up, but also has a great frame break on this Pandart Studio. The Jean Grey is pretty cool as well. Nice artsy. I believe this is the Peach Momoko. And the Sebastian Shaw variant is probably my favorite of the bunch. He doesn't have too many variants in the game. Some of his, look a bit similar. I'm not a huge fan of. This one I really like, and I'm excited to see it animated. I think animated, all of the glow, between his hands, that little magic stuff going on, I think it's going to look really nice. So overall, this is another pretty solid spotlight week in my opinion. Next up, we've got Toxin, who's one of the most hyped cards of the season. I did do my survey for the community to go and vote on which cards they think will be the best for this October season and give me the ratings. Toxin has the highest ratings. Again, I will go more in depth for him in my individual video, but he's got a lot of hype. A lot of people think he's going to be amazing. A lot of people think he's going to be the best card of the season. And I see what that argument is, okay? I think he's got really, really good potential. Toxin being a 2-cost, 1-powered card on reveal. Return your other cards here to your hand, +2 power for each return. So very niche, set to bounce decks. But just another bounce activator. It's really the only new one we've got since the game was released, in addition to Beast and Falcon. So really high ceiling here, and he's going to be in spotlights on October 22nd alongside Zabu and Elsa Bloodstone. Now, when we think of really good spotlight weeks, we're not thinking of this one. Okay, I mean, this is just not what you want to see, if I'm being honest. In terms of competitive, it's just okay. Again, I'm not counting Toxin in here. We don't know how he's going to perform. Okay, I just told you the community's hyped for him, and I think he's got good potential. but we don't know for sure, and people are wrong all the time. So I am excluding him. In terms of the existing cards, we have Zabu and Elsa. Elsa's okay. I do much rather prefer Hope Summers in decks where you are looking for a 3-cost card to fill kind of a power up or boosting role. You can use Elsa for the power route. I prefer Hope Summers for the energy route. But some people do get good use out of her. Zabu sucks. Zabu is just horrible since he got changed and nerfed. He is just bad. Okay. Now it does make me wonder if he's going to get buffed. They have mentioned they're looking to rework him or change him or buff him. And they said, when I say they, I mean Second Dinner. They mentioned that they were going to look to make him an activate, but they decided not to do that. So what do? This may be the time. Okay, we've got like a patch in OTA before this Spotlight Week happens. If they are going to change Zabu right now, or a week or two away, would be a good time to do that. So that way he's actually good when he's in Spotlights. But as of right now, he's Series 4 and he sucks. Elsa being Series 5 and she's okay. She's decent. So fairly weak in terms of being competitive. The variants, I think they're okay. Nothing crazy. I do like the Toxin one. I think the Zabu one is cool. It's not necessarily my style. I believe this is Sean Galloway. Is that the artist's name? It's got a cool style, a nice kind of cartoony style. Okay, I don't dislike it. It's just not my type of thing. And the Elsa one I think is fine. She has some other variants that are pretty cool as well, about the same level. So I'm not seeing anything too crazy here. And that may mean Toxin is really good. Maybe they put the best card of the season in one of the worst Spotlight weeks, right? And the very last card coming to Spotlights on October 29th is Anti-Venom. 4-cost, 6-powered card. On reveal, set the cost and power of your deck's top card to 0. So another card that interacts with the very top card of your deck, similar to an Iron Lad or Jubilee type of thing. This card is very interesting. It's going to be hard to deck build with. We'll have to see if he ends up being good or bad or just somewhere in between. So looking at the very last Spotlight Week of the season, we do have Anti-Venom alongside Supergiant and Ghost Spider. In terms of being competitive, it's okay, mainly because we have Supergiant in here. Okay, kind of similar to the last Spotlight Week actually, where we have Zabu, who's absolute garbage, alongside Elsa, who's decent. Here we have Supergiant, who's absolute garbage, and has always been absolute garbage, alongside Ghost Spider, who's a really good card. Okay, Ghost Spider is really good. If you are looking to play a move deck, you need Ghost Spider. Even if it's, a clog or a junk deck with a move package in there with Dagger, you need Ghost Spider. Anything that's doing any kind of moving, you probably need Ghost Spider. She's great to have, but she is only Series 4. A lot of people do already have her as well. She was a Season Pass card last year, and she has been in Spotlights already. So a lot of people have her, but she's a great card if you don't. It's just, Series 4, you could go ahead and just get her with 3,000 tokens. And Supergiant, Series 5, but really not needed. Maybe she gets a buff too, right? She's basically never seen real play since she was released, so maybe now is the time to look to buff her. I mean, they've buffed, Grandmaster and War Machine and a lot of these cards that came out just before or just after Supergiant did. So this may be her time to get a buff as well right before she's in Spotlights, in which case that would make this Spotlight Week much better. Now, in terms of the variants, I think they're okay. I do like the Anti-Venom one. I like the Supergiant one. It's not like insane, but I think it's cool, and she just doesn't have many variants in the game. Ghost Spider one I think is fine. It's kind of fun, but Ghost Spider actually does have a lot of variants in the game. I myself own a couple Ghost Spider variants just from opening them all the time. She got so much artwork in, like most of the Spider-Man characters, so kind of tough competition on the variants for her. So to summarize my ratings and rankings for each Spotlight Week this season, I'm going to be just showing, what I would prefer, what I would chase after. Again, it is going to vary by your personal collection. If, there's certain weeks, even if I call them bad, but you need all of the new cards, all the cards in that week, it's going to be a good week for you. Or if I call week good, but you already own all the cards, then that is a bit less desirable for you. Now we do again have the 5-week season. In 5th place, what I would consider to be the worst Spotlight Week of the season, it's this one that is just passing, or maybe when you're watching this has just passed, in which case if you did not open, you probably didn't miss out on much. Again, Man-Thing, just not a required card, although he can see some value in certain decks. Mobius, also not a required card. Scream, not seeing too much play. I think a lot of people, even really high-ranked competitive players, did not pick her up because of the Spotlight Week. So maybe when she rotates back in a second time, we will see some more decks and good combos come out with her. But overall, I'm giving this the worst week. Man-Thing and Mobius, also Series 4, really hurts the value here. Number 4, I'm actually giving it to the Toxin week. Zabu is a real killer here. Okay, again, I'm really hoping that they choose now or the next week or two to buff or rework Zabu. Okay, like this is the time. If he does not get buffed or reworked now, right before he's in Spotlights, I don't think they have incentive to do it after, right? Once he rotates out of Spotlights, he's also Series 4. A lot of people own him because he was like the best card in the game for so long. I don't think they have a reason to try and change him. So I think if they buff him before he comes out, it helps maybe sell the Spotlight Week, helps get Toxin into the hands of players if they're opening for him and or Zabu. And it would just be very beneficial, and this would become a great week if Zabu is actually made good again. But as of right now, I think this is a bad week, but I think Toxin could be a really good card. And Second Dinner does often like to put really good cards in really bad spotlights, so the math is kind of mathing here. What I would give at number 3 is this anti-venom week, the last week of the season. Again, Supergiant is a real dud. It's really just Ghost Spider holding it down, but she is only Series 4. Anti-venom, we'll have to see. I don't have the highest hopes for him. You know, I haven't tried deck building with him yet. I will do that when I go to put out my buy or bust video for him. But he could be a miss, and Supergiant is definitely a miss if she does not get buffed by the time this spotlight rolls around. My number 2 choice, I'm giving it to the Scorn week. Okay, Jean Grey is fine. She's decent. She kind of rotates in and out of the meta, like I mentioned. So if you don't have her, it's okay, right? She's never really number 1 deck. It's more like you can play her. She's a good option. Sebastian Shaw, however, is a really good pickup, and he is still Series 5. But if you do plan to play Surfer, most of the cards in Surfer decks, you can get away with versions that have very few Series 4 and Series 5 cards, but not Sebastian Shaw. Okay, you do need to pick him up and put him in there. So this is going to be a good week, and it's nice for Scorn. I do think Scorn's going to be a pretty fun card, so she's got a solid week here. Number 1, again, is this week we are currently about to be in, or currently in, depending on when you're watching. And this is just good. It's mainly War Machine holding down the fort, but Namora just also has really good value. And actually a point that Glazer with Snap Judgments made was that once Toxin comes out, bounce decks get even better because Toxin is meant for bounce. And bounce decks can really counter clog or junk decks. And so if bounce becomes meta, that pushes clog or junk out of the meta. And if clog or junk is pushed out of the meta, then Namora on reveal decks become better, okay? Because you don't have your opponent putting a bunch of crap on your side of the board while you're trying to just power stuff up with Namora. So that chain of events, that domino effect, once Toxin comes out, could actually make Namora spring back into the meta, in which case she's just great to have in your collection. What does this say about Misery, right? As Second Dinner putting Misery in this week because they think she's weak, so they give her a strong spotlight. I don't know. We'll have to see. But overall, these are my thoughts on the spotlights for the October season. Again, depending on your personal collection, you know, you may have things ranked higher or lower. For example, if you don't own, you know, Zabu and Elsa, but you're thinking you want to use them, that might be your best week if you own all the cards in the other weeks, right? So personal bias and your personal collection does matter. But let me know what you think. Which of these spotlight weeks you are most excited for, and how many of them you think you're going to open? You know, are you planning to open most of these weeks, all of them, none of them? Let me know in the comments down below. Until then, stay positive. I'll see you next time.